This is me, April 8th, 2024. I was optimistic, excited, and overconfident. I had just witnessed my first solar eclipse, and more importantly, I just received an important package in the mail. It was an opportunity to prove that when I won the first ever Jennie and Davis Sumara Table Company Box of Scrap Challenge, it wasn't just a fluke. You see, I put a lot of pressure on myself in the second challenge after I won that first challenge, and I choked. I made a floating dog bowl that didn't even place. And even worse, not many of you watched the video either. But I just knew for a fact that this third box was going to be different. And finally, after months of waiting, I could finally show off my skills. I would make a comeback. I would win. And maybe more importantly at the time, I could even find some redemption in that box of scrap wood. The task was simple. Make something impressive, only using the scraps of wood in the box, send pictures of the final project to Jennie and Davis, the famous YouTubers, before the deadline for a chance to win a $300 prize. I had a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it in, but I was confident because I had an amazing idea. I was going to build a bent wood lamination pendant light. How could I possibly lose? Looking back, it's a good thing I didn't know how things would unfold over the next few weeks because just as things started looking bright, disaster struck. And instead of getting my redemption, I learned a valuable lesson instead. Up to this point, everything was going better than I could have ever expected, especially for somebody who had never tried to bend wood before. The wood was cut perfectly into thin strips. The strips were soaking in a bucket of water. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and I had no doubt they would easily bend around a 4-inch PVC pipe. And even though clamping them in place was a struggle, I wasn't worried. In fact, I could already taste sweet victory. All right, I'm really nervous. This has been drying overnight. I'm not really sure how it's going to turn out. I've never really done anything like this before, so let's see what happens. It's like Christmas morning or something. Okay. Well, so far they've stayed pretty bent. One of these is cracked a little bit on the ends, but I don't know what I was going to do at the ends anyway. I'm probably going to have to trim them off anyway. I've grouped these in groups of 4. And as you can see here, I tried to pick the nice one to go on the outside. Some of these other ones have some knots or cracks, or they just don't look quite as nice. To laminate these pieces together, I'm using some Thick-So from Total Boat. It comes with this tip here. You just screw it on the tip like that, and it mixes the part A and part B together. It comes out really thin. It's easy to spread around. It's super durable. It's super strong, so it'll hold everything together. But I only have about 15 minutes to work with this stuff before it starts setting up, so I got to move fast. And I've only got 17 of these. I've only got 1 extra strip, so if any of this goes wrong, I don't even have a project. Oh, and one last thing. I don't know if the epoxy will stick to this tube or not, so I'm actually just going to spray it down with some silicone mold release like I would with any other epoxy project on melamine, and we'll just see what happens here. The struggle to get everything clamped in place before the epoxy cured should have been a clue that the rest of this project was not going to go smoothly. What's the old saying? You don't know what you don't know, or I wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then. Either way, in all honesty, if I would have known how this project was going to end up, I would have never ordered this box of scraps in the first place. Now, it wasn't all bad yet, but it wasn't perfect either. I did struggle clamping it right here, so I decided just to clamp the ends shut instead of trying to curve it around. Some of that'll get cut off anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. And at this point, with only 15 minutes to work with this stuff, you gotta move quick. All right, this has been curing overnight, so let's see how this turned out. I'm really hoping this comes off of here. If not, I don't know what I'm gonna do. It came off, but there was a little delamination. I don't know if I can fix that or not. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know, maybe I'll try to add some more Thixo epoxy back in there and then squeeze it back together. I'll try to think of something, because at this point I don't have any other options. This is all the wood I have left. Now, the feeling of optimism and excitement quickly turned to urgency as I glued up the second, third, and fourth set of strips. You can actually hear the panic start to set in as I realized this process is going to be much harder and take a lot longer than I anticipated. And here's the one that I glued together again. You can see I put some glue in there, I reclamped it, let it set all day, and it's not perfect. There's a couple little gaps here and there, but overall this thing is really solid. And I'm not really worried about it falling apart anymore. So I think I saved this one. The problem I have is I have to make 2 more of these, and I'm finding out I have to let them dry probably 12 hours a piece, and I can only do one at a time. I'm really running out of time because there's a deadline for this project that I have to meet. So I'm gonna go ahead and make 2 more of these, and I'll get back with you once they're done. Now, the camera doesn't always capture the full story. While it can show you clips of me sanding and milling down a block of cherry, it can't capture the sinking feeling I'm starting to have inside. I had grand visions of what I wanted to make in my head. I literally spent hours over the course of a few days placing these curved strips in every imaginable orientation. I was wishing and hoping something magically would work itself out, but nothing seemed to go my way. I wasn't about to quit. I needed a win. I needed redemption. So I forged on and tried to stay optimistic. But deep down in my gut, I knew this was not the prize-winning project I had envisioned making just a few weeks before. All right, here's the basic shape that I have. It's really starting to come together. The problem I'm having is I'm not sure if I like this very straight look here in the middle. I kind of like it, but I also wonder if it would be cool if it had more of a spiral look too, to kind of go with the look of this whole thing. And the only way I know how to get a spiral look like that is wood carving, which I've never done before. I do have a carving disc, so I guess I could try it out. I don't know. I'm going to think about this, and if the next thing you see is me carving, then you know what happened. So I've decided I'm going to try carving. I put a cut saw disc on my, whatever this thing is, and I'm going to try to carve some spirals in this, and we'll see what happens. I've never tried this before, so should be interesting. Do you ever find yourself in a situation when one thing goes bad, it has a domino effect, and everything that follows seems to only make things worse? That's exactly what happened here. The wood carving, the one thing that would restore all hope, bring me certain victory, and save this project from being a disaster, was actually going to make things worse. My confidence was at an all-time low, and for the first time, real doubt was starting to sink in. You can even hear me trying to convince myself that everything is going to be just fine. Now I'm just going to see if there's any amount of sanding that can recover this, because that was a lot harder than I thought. That extreme disc took a lot of wood off at one time, and this kind of looks like crap. So I don't know. I might be wasting my time here, but we'll see. So here's what I ended up with after the carving, and to tell you the truth, I don't know if I'm 100% sold on it, but it's my first time trying this, and you know what? Sometimes you just got to try things out and just see how it goes, and it might not be perfect. This isn't the best wood carving, in the world or anything like that, but it's my first time. It was definitely a learning experience, so I'm going to roll with it. I thought about just throwing this piece out, but hey, you know what? Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. That's just the way things go. So let's glue this thing together. As I edit this video and watch these clips, it's obvious that the epoxy didn't mix well. It shouldn't be yellow. And all the struggles I had gluing this thing up was actually the universe doing some major foreshadowing. This project was never going to work, and even if it did, it was going to look terrible. And for some reason, at this time, I had a moment of clarity, a moment of honesty, a moment of humility. All right, moment of truth. Let's see what we ended up here with, because if I can get the clamp off. All right, so this is it. So yeah, I was sanding, and this piece fell off, and the Thixo was still tacky and that stuff didn't mix and it was still sticky and it came off. And you know what? I think I'm okay with that because once I saw this design come together, I really wasn't liking it. I'm going to try to make lemonade out of lemons or make something out of whatever the hell you would call this. So, and what I'm really stressed about is I have to get this done in the next 24 hours or I won't make the deadline to even turn a project in. So, wish me luck. So after thinking about this for a few minutes and at the risk of being a complete moron and destroying this entire project, I've decided I don't think I like this piece at all. I know I was going to keep the carving, but you know what? It just looks out of place. It doesn't seem to go along. So I am going to take a chisel and just try to knock this piece off and kind of just rethink my whole strategy at this point. There was a sense of relief as I broke this project apart. I suddenly felt free. The thought of winning seemed silly. I was no longer looking for redemption, and the idea of a grand comeback was in the rearview mirror. I had been humbled, and that was okay, because for the first time during this project, I was happy. You see, I was in my shop, doing what I love, without a care in the world. What more could I possibly want? As I added finish to the wood, screwed everything together, chiseled out a slot in this old, cracked, beat-up piece of cherry, and added some glue, I had time to think. I had time to reflect. What I realized is that what I created was a representation of this entire project. It represented my growth. This project was all about perseverance, not giving up, finding a way to keep moving forward when all hope seemed lost. And just as a flower can grow out of a crack in a sidewalk into something beautiful, if you just keep trying and don't give up, you can create something beautiful too. Thanks for watching.